Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Autumn Hyatt, and I am an account manager with Nexus IS. I'm so excited to be here with you and talk to you about the agenda that I sent out earlier. But what that agenda consists of are talking about goals that I've seen in the marketplace, some trends that we've seen out there, challenges that businesses are facing. We'll talk a little bit about infrastructure and innovation in the data center specifically, and then lastly we'll wrap up with how Nexus plays into all of this. So let's jump into it. First, we're going to talk about the goals that we see in the marketplace right now. There are 4 of them, and they're pretty consistent across the board. The first one is increase in flexibility. What's happening here is that businesses are taking a look at their current environment as well as evaluating technology in the marketplace and saying, hey, we want to be flexible enough to be able to bring on some of this new technology. The next one is the increase in agility, and that's really being able to scale up as well as scale out. The next one is increase in operational efficiencies. And that kind of goes without saying, being able to increase some of the efficiencies in everyday working environment. And then the last one, and probably the most popular one, is decrease in spend. So we'll keep those 4 goals in mind as we move through this whiteboard. The next thing that we're going to talk about are trends. And the first trend that we're seeing in the marketplace right now is BYOD, which means bring your own device. And what that really means for businesses is that customers and employees are bringing in their own devices. So they're bringing in iPhones, iPads, Droids, and things like that. Businesses are saying, how are we going to address that? What are we going to do about that? And how are we really going to secure our environment in that, faced with that? The next trend that we're seeing is big data. And big data really means exactly that. It's just the growth and increase of data. So a good example is bringing on video. So data is growing and growing, and we're needing to store more data. And for regulatory compliance issues for some of us, we'll have to store that for longer than we have had to in the past. So another trend that we're seeing is consumption models. And what this really means is, I'll just give you a good example. Businesses are taking a look at how their employees are kind of consuming and using information. A great example of this is Salesforce.com. So that is really software as a service. So that's a consumption model that many businesses are thinking about. And then the last one, and probably the most important one, is disaster recovery, or DR. Businesses are realizing that their data center is increasing in how important it is to their business. It's really the heartbeat of their business. And if something goes wrong, or if there's a hiccup there, what does the disaster recovery plan look like? And is that really stable and secure? So those are the trends. We'll move on to the challenges. So some of the challenges that we're seeing out there, the first one is sprawl, and that's related to things like network and servers and just where they're located. The next one is consolidation, and basically back to network equipment, servers, and things like that, and all of this equipment. How can we consolidate some of this stuff? Next, application. This is saying, hey, you know what, we have a lot of applications, we have a lot of investment in these applications. Are we optimizing them? How do we do that? The next one is lifecycle management. And really that's about that hardware and that infrastructure that you have. Is it on support? When it goes off support, what are you going to do? Who's managing that? Are you going to replace it? Are you going to continue to maintain it in-house? And questions surrounding the life cycle there. The next one is environment. Actually environmental. So what that relates to is like power, cooling, and space. So many businesses have data centers in colos off-site, and they're paying for power and cooling, and then they're paying per square foot. So that's something that businesses are thinking about right now. The next one is virtualization. So this is one that I find interesting. The majority of businesses that I work with are about 30 to 40% virtualized. So the question is, why are we not further along in that? Why are we not 80, 90, 100% virtualized? And that's a question that businesses and some challenges that businesses are faced with. How do we get there? And then how else can we virtualize? Can we do VDI and things like that? And then lastly, cloud. So cloud is very specific, and to each business. There are lots of flavors of cloud, so it's very important to understand which direction you're going. Is a business going to go private cloud? Are they going to go public? Are they going to do a hybrid cloud? Are they going to do internal, vBlock, FlexPod, which I'll talk about later? But what flavor of cloud are we going to go to? Why are we going, and who's going to help us get there? Some of those challenges that businesses are faced with. So I'm going to move right into infrastructure, and I'm going to do a diagram of a very traditional data center environment. So you'll see here the network and network and storage, and this is in the core. And then you're going to have management. You're going to have, again, like a storage switch, network switch, and then you're going to have your traditional rack mount servers. And I'm going to draw some connectivity here so you'll kind of see a little bit about how this whole operation looks. So here's the traditional rack mount environment. So the thing that I want to point out here is that per server, it's required to have 8 cables. So I'm going to just draw 8 cables. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, that would be great if this was just one server. So right now, we're sitting at 8 cables per server. Let's say you have 8 servers in your environment. So that's 8 cables for 8 servers. That is 64 cables. You can already see how it's a mess there. So we're not only are we talking about the actual physical cable, but you're talking about ports, and then you're talking about licensing. So this can get really spendy as your business grows and you require more data and more servers. So what's happened is that the industry moved towards a blade environment, which was awesome for all of us because it really cut down on space and addressed some of those environmentals. So the heating, cooling, and actual physical space. So that was fantastic. But what it didn't address, and if you look at this environment, there are a lot of different points of management. So if you want to do any changes or upgrades or anything like that, on average in a traditional environment, there are 9 points of management. So 9 points of management. So not only that, but this next one is the big clincher. 70% in a traditional environment like this, 70% of IT's budget is spent on basic maintenance of this infrastructure. So, yeah, 70%. I'll say it one more time. So anyways, so what's happened is that it's a perfect segue into what Cisco has done. So Cisco has come up with something called UCS, or Unified Computing System. What this has done is this has taken network, server, and compute, put it into one management platform, all on x86 technology. So I'm going to draw you a picture of that, and I'm going to say first here, this is network, compute, and server, all in one platform. So pretty phenomenal stuff here. So just to draw it out for you, we have this basic layer again. So we have the core, we have storage, we have network. Here's where you're going to see the difference. And then we have the servers. I'm going to do the connectivity here. All right. So that right there is pretty impressive. Just visually, you can see there's a lot less of everything. So, but what I want to get into is, so this is the Cisco UCS platform. Now there are 6 key innovations that make this platform really phenomenal. And I'm going to go over those now. So, 6 key innovations. And the first one is unified fabric. And basically, that's right here. I'm going to make this simple just for the sake of this conversation. But unified fabric, what that has done is, because of this technology, it's going to cut your infrastructure down by 1/3. So you'll see how there's a lot less going on over here than there is over here, and that's directly related to that unified fabric piece. So again, a third less infrastructure there. The next one is UCS Manager. And basically what UCS Manager really does is it just brings those 9 points of management into a single management platform. And really that's it for that one. The next one is the virtual interface card, or the VIC card. And what this does is this will relate back to this these 8 cables. Because of the VIC card, an individual server only requires 1 cable. So before you had 8 servers, 8 cables for a total of 64 cables. Here you have 8 servers, 1 cable per server, 8 cables total. So that really drives down that cost there. But the other cool thing about this layer, or this virtual interface card, is this is actually where you can initiate some QoS parameters. So I think that's a pretty cool thing I wanted to point out. The fourth thing is service profiles. This is my favorite because somebody shared with me a story or a way to kind of explain service profiles. So it's like your SIM card in your phone. So your phone is programmed with all your contacts and your photos. You take that SIM card out, you upgrade your technology, pop it back in, and you're ready to go. Seamless, painless. That's exactly what a service profile is like. But for a server, you take that service profile, you move it to a new host, you do your upgrade or your maintenance or whatever it is that you're doing, move it back, you're good to go. So seamless, painless, you just move that service profile. Really cuts down on the time to do upgrades and add on servers and things like that. The next one is extended memory. And this is really just increasing the memory in a 2-socket server. So this does 2 things for you in this UCS environment. It really increases the power of the actual server itself, but not only does it do that holistically, it'll actually drive down the need to purchase more servers. By beefing up that server, you're not going to have to purchase as many overall servers. So that's a great innovation. So the 6th one is Cisco Intelligent Automation for Cloud. And what this really does is, the best way that I can explain this is, generally in a business, if a department has a project, so let's say payroll has a project, and they contact IT and they say, hey, because of this project, we're going to need some more storage, we're going to need, some additional bandwidth, we're going to need just a laundry list of things that they need for that project. They send it to IT scrambles to get all the right people in place, and then make those purchases, and the turnaround time is the process is excruciating, the turnaround time is quite extensive. With the CIAC, that actually automates that into the cloud, and so it makes it very fast and simple. Another quick example, if somebody needs a desktop or a phone, you have to call different people, you have to image that desktop. It takes, I don't know how long it takes, 2 weeks to maybe get that desktop to somebody. With this intelligent automation for cloud, this can actually just take a single day. So it's really all how you set that up in the UCS. So those are the 6 key innovations. Pretty phenomenal stuff, really amazing stuff. So the last thing I wanted to touch on with the UCS piece is the achievements because I think that this is important. So the achievements that this UCS platform has received, there are 3 that I want to touch on. So UCS was actually number 2 in the server market in the first 2 years that UCS was out there. So the important thing about that is that this technology is where it's at. It is where people are going. I mean, UCS being in the market for 2 years and being number 2 out there speaks volumes. It really screams volumes at how amazing this technology and how key these innovations really are out there. With that being said, so they were number 2. With that being said, there's currently about 11,000 UCS customers out there. And then lastly, within the first 3 years, UCS made the Gartner's Magic Quadrant list. And so that was the first 3 years, but that is key because Gartner's Magic Quadrant is where everyone goes to really evaluate their technology, and to make it on there in the first 3 years is phenomenal. So really just going back and reiterating that UCS is really leading the pack, and the longer that it's out there, the more customers are interested and understanding what these innovations are really going to do for their business. So that brings me to our next topic, which is going to lead me into talking about your environment specifically. So I'm going to just do a little drawing over here, and this is, I'm going to do a diagram of your existing infrastructure. So right now, you currently have Avaya as your voice company, and right now you're purchasing that and getting support from ABC company. You also have your local, your long distance, and your internet with Time Warner. Correct? Yes. And then you have your servers, which you have a mix of HP, both HP and Dell, which is pretty common in the industry, and you purchased those from XYZ company. Here you have your storage. Let's go down here a little bit more. You have your storage, and you have that with EqualLogic, and you actually purchased that from 123 company. And then you have Microsoft, purchased that from 456 company. And then you have a company that actually monitors some of this stuff. So they actually monitor your server and your storage environment, and that is done by 789 company. So I just wanted to point out your current environment and some key things here. So current environment. So right now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 vendors. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 management platforms. And then you have 6 maintenance contracts, or contracts in general. So that's your current environment. And so let's touch on a couple of projects that you and I have discussed in the past, and some projects that you really want to see start to develop and maybe be finalized in the next 12 months. One of the things that we talked about was your voice infrastructure and how it's a little bit legacy, and you're wanting to, and you've been thinking about virtualization and maybe a little bit of SIP as well. So I'm going to relate all of these things and tie these back into UCS and how UCS can address some of these things. So if we're talking about your telco piece, so your Avaya piece, we can do UC on UCS. So UC is Unified Communications on UCS. The next thing, another project that you've been talking about is VDI, which is fantastic. So UCS is prime infrastructure and very solid foundation to be able to launch VDI. The next thing that we've talked about a little bit is cloud. So Cisco has developed a pre-validated design with 2 storage manufacturers with NetApp and with EMC. And they've designed two solutions called FlexPod and vBlock that put an internal cloud right in your environment. So this addresses your storage as well as your servers and then virtualization. This gets you to that next level, and that's all rides on the UCS platform. And then finally, we've been talking a little bit about your database and how that's going to play into things. Cisco has also kept that in mind and really addressed database and bare metal applications in this UCS environment. So that will be addressed here as well. So what happens here is, here you are, you're in the middle of this. This represents you, John, and of course you are definitely more handsome than that. But this is you, and here you are as the CIO, and you're managing all of the teams that manage all of these different technologies, and then you're managing all of these different projects. And you're figuring out, okay, how am I going to get these things accomplished? Which vendors am I going to use? Which teams am I going to use? How am I going to do this? So this is a great question, and this is exactly where Nexus would come in. So Nexus would come in, and we would help you eliminate this situation, and we would do the UC on UCS. Here, we wouldn't take away your Time Warner, but we can work with you on the carrier side of things. So we have a strong voice background, and we understand the delivery of dial tone and bandwidth as it relates to any sort of hardware. So that's something that we can help manage. Oftentimes, something goes wrong with your video environment or your phones. You're on the phone in a finger pointing situation with hardware and carrier. Let us take care of that for you. The other thing that we can take care of is your server side. So I'm going to write Nexus right here. I'm going to write Nexus right here. So on the server side of the house, Nexus can help you out, get you on this UCS platform, as well as move you over to this VDI infrastructure. Nexus can address your server concerns, and we can get you onto a cloud infrastructure by utilizing that UCS and NetApp and EMC with the FlexPod and vBlock. And then Nexus will come in here. We have a fantastic Microsoft team. We can actually help you with that Microsoft environment as well. And then the other thing is, we have a NOC located in Valencia, and we have a beautiful managed services offering that can support all of this and monitor all of this infrastructure. And what we'll do is we'll really proactively monitor your environment. And I think the most important thing that we do is we understand the technology that you have and how you can continue to optimize that, how you can really see a true return on that investment. So we'll do that with like monthly stewardship meetings and things like that. So Nexus, what we will do is we'll come in here and we'll manage that entire infrastructure. So we're managing everything over here. We're getting you to where you need to be. And then we're allowing you to kind of move out of the middle, move on with your daily life, and kind of let us take care of all of this. So basically, with Nexus, you're going to move to that single vendor, or that, as everyone loves this, one throat to choke. You're going to move to one management platform, and that's going to be with the UCS management platform, but Nexus as that single point of management as well. And then on that maintenance contract, will really help you manage those and maybe co-term some of those SmartNet contracts and other storage contracts as well. So that's just more of a management edition. So basically, what we've gone over today is we've touched on some of the goals that we've seen in the marketplace, some of the trends that we've seen, the challenges that businesses are facing, traditional environments, UCS, some key innovations of why Cisco UCS is so phenomenal and why it's achieved some of these very impressive goals. We've touched on your environment, some of the projects that you want to address and some places that you want to get to in the next 12 months, and then really how Nexus is going to help you get there. So the foundation of all of this infrastructure is the Cisco UCS platform. So I'm very excited to talk a little bit more about how it is that I can help you get there. Thanks so much.